You're listening to Vice City Hub. More leaks, less peace.
Turn that static down, Nikki. We are live across the airwaves of Vice City Hub, and my morning coffee hasn't even hit the engine block yet.
Oh my God, pop off, old man! Welcome back to the absolute center of the digital grid, family. It's your girl, Nikki, and we are tracking the absolute thermal radiation off this latest data drop. Legacy design is dead, Vic, buried under a mountain of server-side data routing.
Dead? Kid, I've been playing sandboxes since the rendering engines were held together by duct tape and prayers. You new-gen hype-BC one clip of unpolished software behavior or a pre-alpha compilation build, and suddenly you think the laws of thermodynamics changed. It's code, Nikki. Rigid variables. Strings.
Not this time! This isn't your grandfather's scripted animation tree where a pedestrian just walks in a straight line until they clip into a fire hydrant. We are talking dynamic behavioral ecosystems. The entire internet is literal glass right now because of one single leaked convenience store scene.
Yeah, the store robbery video. Every group chat and Leonida sent me that asset yesterday. Look, I'll admit, seeing an ambient NPC execute an unscripted combat block while managing local collision vectors is weird. But let's not pretend it's magic.
It is magic! It's literal black magic compilation. Let's lay down the timeline layout for these casuals, because if you aren't looking at the underlying architecture flaws they just patched, you are completely missing the meta!
Fine. Let's talk about the milk bottles.
Okay, check the framing. Jason walks into this procedural commercial storefront, pulls a high-impact piece from his HUD inventory, and flags the clerk. Standard player-driven robbery, right? Wrong! There is an ambient consumer NPC standing in aisle 3, and instead of triggering a standard flea logic tree, the system rolls a psychological risk tolerance check.
Right. And this guy's already carrying an active inventory loadout, literally clutching 4 individual high-density plastic jugs of whole milk against his chest mesh. In any legacy game, the engine would force that entity to drop the physics objects to clear its skeletal joint channels before initiating a combat loop. It would look robotic.
Yes, but the modular locomotion rig doesn't drop the assets. The kinematic building blocks lock his upper body torso arrays to sustain the arm wrap volume while dynamically allocating his entire lower extremity bone infrastructure to a localized target coordinate. He balances on one single procedural foot mesh.
And then he boots Jason straight in the teeth. A literal combat strike to the face array, while his arms are wrapped around 2 gallons of dairy. Jason's head dynamic reacts to the blunt force impact vector. His screen indicators flash red, and the whole stack of milk bottles remains mathematically secure under the NPC's arms due to real-time skeletal physics.
The absolute disrespect! Jason is staggering back. His targeting sway goes completely out of parameter, and the clerk is already pulling an under-counter weapon matrix because the witness created a tactical delay window. This completely changes how we approach ambient spatial environments.
Look, it's an impressive showcase of muscle fatigue arrays and real-time kinetic blending, Nikki. But as an old-school dev analyst, my concern isn't the highlight reel. My concern is the client-server infrastructure. How does a local CPU process 50 of those complex multi-sensor physical interactions simultaneously when a lobby gets hot?
That's the beauty of the infrastructure upgrade, Vic. They aren't running synchronous local client cycles anymore. We are talking about severe performance bottlenecks being absolutely bypassed by spatial serialization algorithms. The engine treats the state of Leonida like a shifting grid network.
They can patent all the hierarchical course graph spatial navigation models they want, kid. But when 32 players start dropping high-velocity projectiles in a localized urban zone, those dummy nodes and regional weights face massive structural strain. Let's slide into the deep analysis layer before your hype completely melts the mixing board.
Let's get technical. This whole convenience store execution runs directly on patent US 116207881B1, the legendary modular character locomotion framework authored by Tobias Kleanthos. Instead of blending pre-recorded motion capture files, the system parses structural assembly blocks on the fly.
Back in my day, if you wanted an NPC to react to an environmental hazard, you manually drew a linear transition line between standing and falling. If the character was carrying a weapon or a prop, it corrupted the skeletal mesh. What Kleanthos did was separate the physiological constraints from the actual tracking data.
Exactly! So when the milk bottle guy decides to fight, the engine queries his individual personality vector, registers that his aggression metric is higher than his panic index, and compiles a specific kinematic gait. The system calculates his surface angles and material properties, realizing he has zero rotational sway limitations because his feet are clear, even if his hands are occupied.
But here's the kicker that trips up the casuals. Joint tolerance adaptation. The patent explicitly states that if Jason had fired a round and clipped that NPC's shoulder array before the kick landed, the physics joint limits within the locomotion rig would instantly degrade. That physical joint tolerance drops, which mathematically reduces the angular momentum of the foot strike.
Oh, so if he's injured, the kick wouldn't even have reached Jason's face? It would have clipped his midsection mesh or caused the NPC to lose structural equilibrium and collapse into the sparse fluid grid on the floorboard? That is absolutely unhinged attention to system design.
It's a resource hog, Nikki. Think about the memory address space variables. They're running real-time, grid-based computational metrics for sweat, blood runoff, and clothing thickness using Wolke's sparse fluid simulation models while trying to protect game variables from client-side memory editing. It's an asymmetric processing war.
But that's why the course graph regional segmentation exists. The dedicated server architectures serialize everything beyond a 100-meter active radius into low-overhead statistical movement approximations. The milk guy only becomes a high-fidelity cognitive agent when your spatial coordinate input enters his local zone.
Speaking of local coordination, the community feed is absolutely overflowing with toxic exhaust over this data. Let's tap into the server logs and look at the real-time feedback.
Oh, the community salt is purely exquisite today. Let's pull up the verified handles directly from the network database. First up, we got a text post from user handle Dr. John-Watson who says, "Holy absolute hell! If an NPC can kick me while holding groceries, I am never robbing a liquor store again without a full tactical squad."
Typical modern gamer. Wants everything handed to him on a silver platter. Then you got user competitive Pipe 468 complaining on the boards. They finally updated the website infrastructure, but the video encoding is so dense my local client machine dropped frames just playing the preview loop.
Get a better graphics array, casual. User Radio Kid posted a parsed screenshot saying, "Look at the interior asset generation behind the glass counter. Those semantic descriptors are programmatically generating non-repeating cigarette cartons based on regional metadata tagging. No two stores look identical."
Alright, cut the chat logs. The auxiliary hotline's lighting up like a Christmas tree in downtown Vice City. We got an active connection coming through the encrypted routing nodes.
Hub Hotline, you are live with Vic and Nikki. Identify your handle user and state your variable. Yo, turn my audio up! Listen, this whole modular locomotion system is a complete corporate blockade. I've been running script exploits in multiplayer sandboxes for 3 years straight, and this new dynamic variable encryption is completely toxic!
Oh, great. A literal script kitty on my airwaves. Let me guess. You mad 'cause Sufi's memory address space obfuscation patent means your little client-side trainer can't find the static pointers anymore?
It's a violation of consumer integrity! If I want to trigger an infinite ammo wave parameter or edit the physical joint tolerance in my own lobby so I don't get staggered by an NPC holding a milk jug, that's my civic impulse! The developers are using procedural neural networks to target our communities! Imagine being so bad at the sandbox meta that you have to hack the memory variables to avoid getting clapped by a literal grocery shopper. Your risk tolerance metric is absolute 0, family. You are molting because the police AI actually uses unified breach and clear squad tactics now. Shut up! You don't know the grind! When the tactical perimeters drop tear gas and deploy K9 assets that track your coordinates through functional CCTV cameras instead of just spawning on your forehead, the whole optimization loop breaks! They are encrypting the underlying source code management structures! It's completely unhinged!
Yeah. Go back to your script form, kid. The adults are talking. That right there, Nikki, is exactly why the industry had to move toward relational databases and encrypted variables. Hacking ruined the old ecosystem.
Absolute facts, Vic! The gray zone is real, and if you can't adapt to description-based suspect profiling, you're gonna spend your entire deployment cycle sitting in a digital holding cell while the rest of us are cruising shore drive in a classic sedan!
It's a wrap on our technical breakdown of the Leonidas spatial progression systems. Pre-orders are rolling live on the official digital storefronts, so make sure your hardware specs can handle the intensive CPU streaming pipelines before the winter release cycle hits the service.
Lock into the Vice City Hub digital network platform for the upcoming breakdown of the Ultimate Edition Safe House assets. Hit that subscription array, clear your behavioral loops, and don't get caught slipping by an NPC with a dairy product.
And seriously, buy your own milk. See you on the grid.
I guess all those clickbaiters on YouTube are super busy deleting their videos right now.